The Bank of Canada has done it again. They have raised the interest rate. And we want to talk about that at length today. And there's a reason to talk about it at length because it does have overarching effects on the real estate market. So Darryl Van Sickle is here today. Of course, you're watching and listening to Homes Made Simple. Darryl, this interest rate hike happened on October 26th, 2022, for those who are watching this in the future. And prior to Wednesday, it was sitting at 3.25, which was already in and of itself a hike. And now they've hiked it again. I'd love to get your take on what it all means for the real estate market.
Well, if you're in the real estate market right now, say you're a variable, let's use a $600,000 mortgage just because that's kind of an average in the industry right now. Basically, what that means for you is your monthly payments on a 30-year will go up about $180 a month. Now, if you're looking to get into the market or looking at moving inside the market, your pre-approval, that would have changed. You would have lost about $32,000 in purchasing power. So if you could have got a mortgage of 600,000. Now you're under 570.
I want to talk first about the first point, which is how much more it costs someone on their mortgage. $180. You use the $600,000 example. $180 more per payment or per month.
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So just from that change alone, just every month going forward, it's $180 a month, approximately. Say it was 30-year mortgage, 600,000. Just trying to use kind of normals in the industry. It's about $180.
Okay, but let's go back in time though. This was as a result of the most recent basis point increase, right? But prior to, like, if we look, let's go back a year, right? A year ago, it was a vastly different landscape. So the 180 is not really 180 compared to a year ago.
That's what I talked to people about before. Was they would say, I'm not worried about a 0.5% interest increase, and I agree. It's not a half that's going to do anything to you. It's a half, and then a half, and then a half, or a half, and a 3/4, and a 1, and a half. They start adding up. And a fast change in interest rates doesn't mean overnight. Even within inside of a year, even 2 years. If you're in a 5-year term and all of a sudden you renew, it's going to feel instant.
Yeah.
Because if you're going from, say, over the last many years, you can get a 2% mortgage. Sometimes you're getting 1.65 years. You go from a 1.6 to a 5.5. That is massive.
That's significant. That's not just $180 a month extra.
Oh, no. You're talking $1,000 at least.
That's significant.
It wouldn't just be the $1,000. If it was just $1,000, that's one thing. But unfortunately, because the way the market's been for so many years now, where I'm in Brantford and we do a lot of work around the area, and generally it's been a very financially conservative buyer, right? So traditionally saying, but before 2014, people will go out and they say, I'm approved for 400,000, but I only want to spend 300, and that was normal. Where now the last couple of years it's been, I've approved for 400. Can we get anything at that? And so now let's say you've bought something and you're at your absolute max, and then it goes up 50%. That's completely different than just saying, I went up $1,000. You're going up $1,000 from your max. And that's where you're really gonna start seeing changes.
Right. And so I think your point is that if you are, let's say you have a purchasing power of, let's say, 400,000 is the example, but what you can get for that 400,000 may not be what actually suits your lifestyle, suits your family, suits your means, like, all the things that you want out of life and where you want to live, the neighborhood, etc. So then you kind of start to push the boundary and go as high as you can possibly go. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking for a detached house with 3 bedrooms and a garage. Okay, well, I want to buy it in a safe neighborhood. So if that one that's at, let's say, 300, that's not a safe neighborhood, but the one that's in the nice neighborhood, it's 425. And now it's like, I'm really going to push the absolute max that I can do. And unfortunately, that's just the way it's been for a lot of people trying to make a move. Even if you owned a house, right? It was literally, it was just a stretch because there was so much happening and the prices were rising so fast that it was very,
right. So you push it. And you push it as high as you can go, but then you open yourself up to vulnerability when the Bank of Canada makes these types of decisions over the course of, like you said, over time, 0.5% here, 0.25% here, 1%. and now here we are, and then you've really, I guess, you're house poor at this point.
Yes, we've basically gone from a quarter percent, right, like 0.25 to 3.75 in 6 months, 7 months.
I mean, that's wild.
That's higher than it's been in, I think it's probably before 2008. 2018, 2019, we had some interest rate increases, but we passed those a while ago.
What can homeowners do, if anything? I mean, is there anything that they can do? I mean, here's the thing: if your costs, let's say, have gone up by $1,000 a month because of these interest rate hikes that have been happening over the course of the last year or so, it's not just like you said, it's not just the $1,000 extra in mortgage payment. It's the fact that gas is so high and that groceries are so high. Like the cost of living is expensive right now. There was a article I saw recently. Someone was at a Loblaws or a store, a supercenter, superstore, whatever, and there was like a picture of just sausage, just sausage for purchase, and it was like two for $25. I mean, it was just an outrageous amount for what would normally be kind of a normal thing you would buy. It was indicative of the cost of living right now. So it's not just the mortgage, it's everything else piled on top of it.
Yeah, it's hitting you everywhere. There's nothing you can turn to that, like you need a roof over your head. You don't have a choice. You need to put fuel in your car. You don't have a choice. You need fuel or food. You don't have a choice. Every single one of your main, just basics of life has gone up substantially in the last 6 months.
So
What
what
can
can
people?
can anything, I mean, what can a homeowner even do? What are the options? I mean, is the option just to, like, I don't know, is the option to sell the house? Like, what can people do if they're in a situation where they're pinched so hard that they really can't make ends meet?
Well, if you're in a variable, I'd probably, the question is, do you want to lock in? Some people talk about the interest rates coming down in the next little while. The Bank of Canada's job is to secure the dollar and fight inflation. And right now, inflation is higher than it's been in, I think, 40 years. Or I think something like that, a long time. Um,
And you
so,
made you made a point about this on a previous episode as well, where you talked about the role of the Bank of Canada is nothing to do with real estate. They're totally independent and separate. Their role is, like you said, managing the dollar, managing inflation, and everything else that comes about as a result of that, or the trickle down effect of that, is what it is. That's not their concern, so to speak.
yeah, real estate is not their job at all. I believe it's three things. It's the dollar, it's inflation, and the economy. So if all of a sudden, the economy and inflation, if all of a sudden you start seeing the economy fall off, they can use the interest rate to start propping it back up to stimulate more growth
Yeah,
by
that
cheaper
makes sense.
money. Maybe you might see that. Inflation can be very sticky because now all of a sudden you're seeing new cars. Right, just new cars alone, they're up 10,000. Like some cars are up $10,000. Exact same car, just because the cost of building them up. You can take a look at just even fuel. Fuel alone right now, it's already going back up. It's at right now $1.75 a liter for gas, and it's $2.50 for diesel. And they're talking about it going up quite a bit more as we're coming into the winter. So
Mhm.
if you increase the price of diesel, every single thing you have that you use is shipped with diesel. All your food, all your clothes, every single thing. So if that goes up, immediately the costs are going to get passed down to you. Um, yeah,
I
I
think
know.
I think I might have interrupted you because you were saying that if you have a variable mortgage, you might want to consider locking in.
Yep, it's something you can at least know where you stand, right? Myself, I locked in, but other people maybe they want to stay with a variable. It just depends on what they're most comfortable with. But for myself, I'd rather know where I'm at. This is what my bill is. I know what it's going to be for the next 5 years. I'm comfortable with that, or not. I'd always like it lower. It's always better to have nothing, but I want to know what my bills are going to be, and we just don't know where it's going to be. I mean, if we look back in January and February, people were saying interest rates can never go up. And it would be to even suggest that the interest rate would go up a full percent at this point total. Most people wouldn't want to talk about it. Now here we are. We've had full percent raises in one shot. We've had 3/4%. The 0.5% seems small now. It's like, oh, it's
All things being relative.
yeah.
It's
Oh
like
my god.
only a 0.5%.
Yeah. Well,
Yay.
thank God it was only a half. I thought it'd be 3/4. Where 6 months ago, you're not even going to see a 3/4, a 0.5%. Now it's only half. And our next one is, I think, December.
I
in
heard
December.
December 2022. And the talk then is getting it up another quarter basis point. So getting up to 4%. Is that what you're hearing too?
4.25 is what they've been talking about, but
Four and a quarter.
I don't know if that's
Wow.
just optimism or pessimism. It's hard to say. Um, it was pretty optimistic to say it was only going to go up maybe 0.5% 6 months ago, and now here we are, looking at that, going that was never going to happen.
So locking in a variable, if you're in a variable mortgage, then locking in is an option. What are other, is there anything else that someone, a homeowner can do if they're really pinched so hard right now?
If you just bought a house, you've probably got a mortgage that's the longest amortization you can. That's normal. So if there is room there, maybe that's something you can look at doing, is just stretching. That'll help with your payments a little bit. Being locked in gives you security of knowing where you're at, and then it's just if things go down, you can always look at doing a refinance just to get maybe a variable as it's going down if that happens. Other than that, I believe there'll be some tough conversations with some people. Just if you're not able to hold on to the payments you're doing right now, how long do you hold on?
Yeah.
I mean, renting's expensive. Renting's really expensive. But if you purchased a house in, say, 2019, you've got a couple $100,000 in equity. I would rather have a couple $100,000 in my bank account than be losing everything if that's the situation you're in.
Right.
It every we've talked before. Every person's different. Every situation's different, and some of those conversations they're not easy.
And I think that's exactly where, again, people in your profession come into play, right? Is being able to play out and talk out those scenarios, as difficult as those conversations may be. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about you and just your approach, Darryl, is that you're a straight shooter. Like you're someone who doesn't, you're not going to tell somebody something they want to hear. Like you're the person who tells the truth and like lays it out and is not afraid to have those conversations.
I, I've I pride myself on being accurate. You might not like what I said, but as long as I'm accurate, that's the best service I can give you.
Yeah.
There's nothing more I can do to help you than just give you the best advice I can as far as what's happening and just educate you on what's happening, whether it's buying a house or selling a house. This is where things are at, and if you fully understand, then that's the best thing. That's the best for you because I don't know all of your information. I never will, and if you have that information, then you can make the the best decision for your family.
So we know that interest rates obviously keep going up, up, up. There's indication that in December 2022 is going to go up yet again, over at or over 4%. We are going to, of course, be on top of it here in Homes Made Simple and continue to have these conversations for the audience to better understand what it means and how that impacts you. Darryl, what are you anticipating happening here over the next, let's say 6 months in real estate overall?
There's your seasonal. I'm expecting you to slow down because we are coming into November, December, and that's just typical for it to slow down. Normally, say middle November, you would start to see a slowdown because end of the year it's just getting colder. Um, People getting ready for Christmas, things like that. Interest rates, they're probably going to go up another 0.5%. That seems to be what a lot of people are expecting, but who knows? Um, Coming into the new year, I think would be very interesting. Just because we've seen so many people put their house up for sale and not sell. Um, and I think it's a lot of people don't know what it means on a monthly payment, what those interest rates are. And I've showed some people, and they came back to me and said, "No, I went straight home and talked to my wife about what that actually meant because they just didn't know." And if you, the amount of people that have had houses that were up for sale that were looking for prices that were yesterday's prices and then taking it back off, hoping that it'll come back in January and February has been interesting. And
Yeah.
I feel like January and February, we're probably going to start to see the inventory start to climb.
Okay.
Um, that's what I think will happen. I don't know. I've been wrong
Yeah.
before, but I think you're going to see people want to put their house up early because not tradition, but say the last many years, January at the very beginning, my advice for people was put it up first weekend after the new year. because that's when everything started again.
Okay.
In the last 2 years, especially, the prices just took off, right? Just massive gains. It was basically January, February, almost set the year. And I have a feeling that people are probably going to hope for that again. But I don't think you're going to see the prices go up. I think you're going to see a lot of inventory start to get on there, because by the time January rolls around, everyone who's had a pre-approval will have worked all the way through their 90-day, 120-day pre-approval, and they're going to be at 5 or 5.5%, not 3, not 4. So that's going to make a big difference on, even if they wanted to buy it, what they can afford. And I have a feeling you're going to start to see that disconnect of where the inventory goes up and the sales go down, or the values start to go down, just because what people are able to afford. And then it's, if someone has to sell, right, then prices, when you have to sell, you got to start cutting the price if you have to.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
January will be interesting.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. Of course, we'll be on top of it. Darryl, how do people get in touch with you if they want to have a tough conversation around what their current scenario is?
You can reach us straight through our Instagram page at Homes Made Simple. You can contact us through Facebook at Jessica and Darryl Van Sickle. Google our name. We're everywhere. You
Oh,
can
the
find
old
our
Google
office.
machine.
Yeah, yeah. We're trying to make ourselves as available as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it'll be interesting over the next few months here to watch this. These are, again, you're not saying this is going to happen. It's like some thoughts, some ideas of where things might go. And so we'll see how this plays out over the next few months. Darryl, thanks so much for coming on and talking about this interest rate hike, the latest one, and how it's going to impact the market.
Oh, it was great to talk again.